It's time for some more creepy toys. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our first video on the Poppy Playtime series, where we broke down the story of Poppy Playtime Chapter 1. In this video, we will be expanding on the lore further into Chapter 2 of the series, which adds a whole lot more story, so buckle in. Let's get into the video. Timeline-wise, we're jumping off where we left off in the first chapter, and we are greeted with another amazing Playtime co-advertisement. This one is titled Mummy Longlegs, and is dated February 2nd, 1991, and of course contains a spooky face that appears for like a millisecond. It's actually embarrassing how long it took me to pause on this exact frame, but there you go, nightmares, you're welcome. Mummy Longlegs has elastic arms and legs that allows her to tie herself around objects, and do some crazy spider type crap. In normal Playtime Co fashion, we have our advert going from bright, fun and energetic, to dark, dismal and horrible in a matter of seconds. As images of a person running through the city is shown, the voice of Poppy can be heard saying to wake up, and she even makes a subtle appearance with her face appearing in the image. We find ourselves back in the Red Room, now with Poppy missing from the container that she once resided in. It leaves us heading back into the facility as we can see pictures of Huggy Wuggy and another toy. Now it's a little bit of a spoiler, but this character is named Bron. We actually briefly saw the toy version of this guy in the first chapter, but keep his name in mind. We find the door with the name Elliot Ludwig above it. This is the owner of Playtime Co, and we saw him briefly in the video at the start of chapter 1. The door is locked, but the voice of Poppy can be heard calling out to us, telling us which way to go. Again, I don't think I'm going to be listening to the newly released Demon Doll, but we are already so committed at this point. It is what it is. We find a cardboard cutout of Huggy Wuggy, looking much more pleasant than our previous meeting. We can hear his voice now, and to be honest, he sounds a bit like Goofy.
Does someone need a hug?
You can't fool me, pal, I'm familiar with your game. We get the key and open Elliot's door. The room is full of children's drawings and of different Playtime Co toys and messages to Ludwig, not to mention another VHS tape. And a note describing an experiment 814. It mentions an experiment utilizing a live rat. It was fed 3 food portions daily for 2 weeks. At the end of the 2 weeks, the rat was killed and submerged into a poppy flower and preservative gel mixture. A week later, an electric shock was applied to the rat while it was still in the gel, in an attempt to revive it. The rat remained unresponsive. They still believe in the potential of the poppy flower. Its unusual properties lead them to believe that the proper mixture and procedure could actually have life-altering properties. Not to mention that the poppy flower also holds heavy symbolism, something they believe has great meaning, before signing off mentioning that perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. This VHS is sort of a type of documentary, explaining just how much of a great man Elliot Ludwig was, with a notable black box placed over his face in each of the pictures of him. The video goes on to explain how much of a hard worker he is, and how he constantly looks to innovate and create new things. In the 1960s, Ludwig lost a close family member, and focused his time into creating the Playtime Corporation, pushing through his issues and depression. Just as it is about to explain the story from the beginning, the tape cuts off, as an ominous noise plays over the tape. Well, back to the corridors. We come to find Poppy as she is attempting to put the power back on, and she asks us for our help in doing so. Once the power is back on, she thanks us for freeing her, and tells us that she would like to repay the favor by helping us out of this place using the train codes that she has. She plans on guiding us and, more importantly, following us throughout the vent system. Poppy can be found sitting next to a giant hole and gets grabbed and pulled down by a long pink arm. An educated guess would tell you that this is likely Mummy Longlegs. We jump down in pursuit, since the spooky demon doll is really our only lead out of here. It doesn't take long until we find Mummy Longlegs with Poppy. And not only does she steal our right hand, but also goes down the saw route and asks us to play a game for the train codes that Poppy was going to give us. We need to win 3 games to get the codes, and if we break the rules, she threatens to gut and eat our insides while we're still alive. Nice. Great. Once again, a lesson why you don't go into anything abandoned with reported disappearances or deaths. It's very simple. We head into the PlayStation and can find more drawings from kids with the Playtime Co toys, showing that they actually really do seem to like Mummy Longlegs. A recording is playing, welcoming us to the game station. The person on the recording is somebody called Stella, the same employee that was having a life or death crisis in the first chapter. The first room we visit is the musical memory game, which involves us building and creating a green hand that will replace our lost red hand. We end up in another room with a bunch of televisions around, and we begin our game. It tests cognitive ability through sequence repetition. You see a colour on the screen and a pattern. You need to repeat that pattern. Quite simple really, except for the twist that Bunzo, another Playtime code toy, is descending from above us. If we succeed, Bunzo goes further up. If we fail, Bunzo gets closer to us and we have a very bad day. Mummy Longlegs arrives but mentions how long it's been since this place has been up and running. And also putting out that old Bunzo there is quite hungry after all this time. We managed to get the puzzle done, till a point that it becomes goddamn impossible. So we hit the big old eject button, stopping the machine. Luckily, Mummy Longlegs thinks that the machine just broke and gives us part of the train code as a reward. We can come across Bron just sitting dormant, and not really doing a hell of a lot in the rejected room. Quite frankly, I appreciate it. It's a nice change. We find a tape and can see a toy speaking while sitting on the toilet. I was 100% convinced that this was Garfield when I first saw him, but apparently he has just been demoted as a toy due to its disgusting nature, with the whole fact that the toy is called Sir Poops a Lot, and its whole gimmick is that it's crapping. I mean, the box even has a bunch of dad jokes. Management literally left a note for this thing saying that whoever came up with the idea should be ashamed of themselves, and quite frankly, I agree. But I'm not sure if the Sir Poops a Lot is a bloodthirsty demon toy just yet, but if he isn't, I'll give him a pass. We get back to the game station and get ready for our special second game, Whack-A-Wuggy. You remember that guy from Chapter 1? Yeah, it's got to do with him. It's time to test our reaction time. A Huggy Wuggy will pop out from the holes around us and we need to hit the crap out of them. Pretty simple stuff. Mummy Longlegs mentions that the toys used to have strings attached to them to stop them from getting too close to the kids, but we of course don't have that luxury. After some Wuggy whacking, we get another congratulations and yet another train code and head back towards the game station. We do, however, get a visit from this friendly chap, a pink-looking Huggy Wuggy, who opens up the door for us and politely lets us through without murdering us. A step in the right direction. This toy is called Kissy Missy. We saw her a few times in artwork throughout Chapter 1 and 2. We get another VHS and... hold up, is that Jacksepticeye? What the hell? I can't say I expected to see him here. Well, it's not actually Jacksepticeye. He's playing a character called Marcus Brickley, another employee here at Playtime Corporation. He describes seeing a creature during his shift that startled him. Explaining to Leith Pierre, he describes it as being 50 feet long with thousands of legs and it's absolutely terrified of it. Pierre tries to dissuade Marcus, mentioning that it was probably just a bunch of people. Something Marcus is quick to dismiss. Pierre asks if anyone else knows about this, to which Marcus replies that nobody else knows. This tape is actually quite interesting because it puts a few things into perspective. Firstly, the VHS is called Potential Problem, which doesn't bode well for Marcus's fate. Also, this shows that some, if not all of the general Playtime Co. employees don't actually know what's going on with the living creatures here. Now, if you're wondering what creature Marcus saw, we'll be meeting it very shortly. We arrive back at the game station and can begin our third and final game. This time, statues. We can see a poster as we head into the area of a centipede-like toy. The exact name of this is PJ Pugapilla, and this is likely the creature that Marcus saw. We get into the arena and begin our game. The basis of this is that the lights will flicker from on and off. When they are off, we can move. When they're on, we cannot. PJ Pugapilla here will follow us throughout, trying to catch us. And I mean, look at this thing. It is like the worst puppy imaginable. Mummy Longlegs comes back and explains how the orphan children would come here to play at the facility, and would call her mummy since she was the closest thing that they had to one. But she feels wronged by them since they would leave her after playing the games. She feels that she was left here to die, and doesn't feel that she deserved that. But since we were a previous employee here, we do deserve it. We start running for our damn life in what is one of the most nerve-wracking games in the facility, I won't lie. We break into the control room and can find 2 more documents. The first is an assignment form written by Sarah Abel. It is a test subject form, stating that a subject named Michaela Hyssop is being assigned the toy of Candy Cat. It is evaluating Michaela's scores throughout the games at the game station, which now appears to have been used to assess orphan children for suitability in some kind of experiment. Firstly, Michaela got a rating of 3 in the musical memory, the rating being between 1 and 5, mentioning that she would get panicked whenever she got the pattern incorrect. In the Whack-A-Wuggy game, she also got a rating of 3, struggling with the grab pack and was slow to notice them in the first place, but did actually react quite quickly when she did notice them. And finally, she got a rating of 1 in the statues game, the worst score possible, since Michaela wasn't paying attention and apparently was screaming and pointing at nothing. The note ends abruptly with blood in the corner, suggesting that Sarah was possibly attacked while writing it. From the other document found was another test subject assessment form, written by Matteo Lata. It is also for Michaela Hyssop, but this time around her scores are much better, scoring a 4 in musical memory, a 3 in Waka-Wuggy, and 4 in statues. But it also states that she lacks focus on the statues game, pointing out that there's something that's drawing her attention elsewhere. The page ends abruptly also, meaning that Matteo was likely attacked or killed at the same time that Sarah was. We head downstairs as Mummy Longlegs calls out to us, mentioning that we won, and return to her immediately so she can give us the final code. But it is pretty damn obvious that we would not survive that encounter, since she openly states that she wants to kill us. We find another document upstairs, this time a transfer request for Mummy Longlegs, or otherwise known as Experiment 1222. It even states a real name, Marie Payne. It points out that she acts violently towards staff, but motherly towards other experiments since she is very protective of them. The staff view the hostility as problematic, but think that they have a solution. They want to transfer her to the high security maintenance, and have her see the children on a more regular basis, as they believe it would not only improve her behaviour, but she would also be unlikely to act out in front of the children. We find another VHS later that is Pierre addressing the complaints from people about a very large spider that was spotted by staff. He emphasises that no spider that size exists, and that a specialist team will come down here to investigate, and to just continue on with their jobs and quit complaining. Dear God! Oh, I hate jump scares so much, I really do. Mummy Longlegs reminds us just how much she hates cheaters like us, and has decided to play one final game before she kills us. Hide and seek. While running throughout, we can find another document, this time addressed to Warren Barch Construction Company. It is written by Eddie M. N. Ritterman, in response to previous communication regarding the construction of an underground laboratory. The project needs to be in complete secrecy, only to be known by those with the proper authority at the two companies. Eddie offers $100,000 in exchange for the secrecy, and is also willing to provide excavation equipment, mentioning that the more independent that they work, the more he is willing to compensate them. It needs to be built within a 12-month period, but more than anything, it needs to be done correctly. This is likely the experimentation area that was mentioned earlier. We keep going into the facility, and enter an incinerator to hide from Mummy Longlegs. I don't know how that's meant to work, but sure. Turns out it doesn't do much, since she pops back up and continues the chase. That is until we lead her into a compactor, which screws her up something wicked. A hand that resembles Mr. Scissorhands or Freddy Krueger appears, and gently pulls what is remaining of Mummy Longlegs under the door. We can find another VHS tape in the next area that mentions an Experiment 1006, and we can see the same Scissorhand from before. It mentions how the experiment almost breached his containment, disabling the digital security measures in his room, using pieces to create a laser pointer, which he then used to disable the security camera. This gave him exactly 28 seconds of being unmonitored. When the security camera came back up, the room was empty. A specialist member went in to check and found 1006 hiding in the blind spot of the camera, still within the room. The experiment attempted to escape, but another specialist locked the door in time, while the other specialist remained inside, resulting in a single casualty. It points out that 1006 is considered the most intelligent experiment thus far by quite a margin, as well as a ready willingness to commit serious acts of violence. We now find ourselves above the game station and collect the final train code, not to mention another document asking for windows in the game station since there isn't any. I won't say much more on it since it really doesn't add anything meaningful to the lore, but hey, Dr. Matthew Wason wants some windows. Do with that what you will. There is also a guide to proctoring in the game station. This is likely who Sarah and Matteo were. It gives a step-by-step guide on what they wanted as well. Report to the control station, while keeping a minimal distance of 20 yards from Mummy Longlegs, due to the hostility mentioned before. 8 AM the train arrives and all the children will be put inside the game station at once. The game order is the same as we did them. Musical memory, then Waka-Wuggy, and finally statues. One child should play the game at one time, and their performance recorded as relevant. The qualities being looked at are composure, memory, and pattern recognition and musical memory, hand-eye coordination and reaction time for Waka-Wuggy, and finally, agility, strength, and speed for statues. Once the children have left, give all the reports to Stella Graybar. We speak with Poppy, who is much more monotone and creepy than before, which I didn't even think was possible. She seems pretty happy about Mummy Longlegs' death, and tells us that it's time for us to leave using the train. We enter the code and begin our journey. The train here really reminded me of the train that we saw at the beginning of Chapter 1 that was moving on its own. Poppy thanks us again for saving her, calling us perfect. Too perfect, in fact, to leave, and changes the route on the train. She goes on to say that she's been waiting so long for somebody to open up her cage. She intends to set things right and believes that we will do whatever we must to help her. The train begins going very fast, and we attempt to slow it down, but it ends up crashing instead. The screen fades to black as Chapter 2 comes to an end. However, just like the first chapter, we have special VHS videos that can only be found on the Mob Entertainment YouTube channel. Firstly, the disappearance video. A man is seen driving a car while talking on the radio. He mentions that they have eyes on 1170 heading southbound. They are trying to cut him off, stopping him from getting to the public roads. We can also see cam footage from the 18th of June 1992, of which 1170 runs from the facility, which 2 staff members saw and hit the emergency alarm. We can see that 1170 is Huggy Wuggy from the footage. Within 3 minutes, security staff and vehicles have begun pursuit, and it's mentioned that Huggy Wuggy has travelled over a half mile in that time frame. They find him and prepare themselves as Huggy charges the car as the security team shoots tranquilizers at him, hitting him once in the left leg, but Huggy flees into the woods. They continue on foot and expand the search zone into nearby residential areas. But the increased range has caused issues with the team's radios. Now, 1 entire hour after 1170 escaped, we can see cam footage of one of the security members that gets ambushed by Huggy Wuggy. I won't lie, these tapes are 1000% scarier than the actual game moments. These toys are no joke, man. In total, Huggy Wuggy killed 5 people, and there is now 6 people missing, all while sounding like the most horrific creature known to man. It took 4 hours to finally locate and successfully sedate 1170. The second tape is called Relocation, dated August 8, 1995. The staff is tasked with moving the giant from storage, the giant being Kissy Missy. They strap her for transport on a bunch of boards and load her onto the train. The tape has been tampered with and has changed the 4th step to loosen the straps binding Kissy. We can see that this is likely the train that we rode at the end of Chapter 2, moving Kissy Missy, while more steps are changed in the tapes. Once arriving at the location, we can see the staff dead alongside Kissy Missy. The final video is called Restoration, as we get a glimpse into the experiment room of Playtime Co. It mentions a test subject named Thomas Clark. He is 59 years old and is dying of cancer, and also notably a previous employee of Playtime Co. since 1955. He has even volunteered himself for experiment, codenamed Bigger Bodies Initiative. The staff can be heard speaking to the Bron toy, asking if Thomas can hear them, and Bron moves his eye. He is even given the 1199 experiment number, and he has displayed cognitive ability, but it is estimated to be roughly half the intelligence level that he previously was as a human being. The staff believe that he probably fails to comprehend what is happening to him and how he became a toy. It's also noted that other experiments have noticed that 1199 is different. We can see footage of 1199 as the other experiments all surround him and actually attack him, almost killing him. The security team jumped in and stopped it, but 1199 still sustained considerable damage, particularly to his thyroid and throat, which were completely devoured. 12 hours of surgery was required to save his life and is now kept separate from the other experiments, and what I would personally describe as a worse fate than death. And that wraps up the story of Poppy Playtime Chapter 2. If you're seeing this, then Chapter 1 and 3 are already on the channel, so don't waste any time checking them out. I will also be releasing a full series explained for the Poppy Playtime game, so keep an eye out for that as well for the 3 chapters. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe for more in the future. Until next time, peace.